Welcome to Creators Cafe. I'm your host, Jessica Payne. I'm a performer, performance coach, and multi-hyphenate creator. I'm going to be bringing you conversations with some of my favorite creators where we talk about the sublime and the specifics of the creative journey. So grab a drink, get cozy. Let's go. My guest, Jonathan Unger, is the CEO and founder of UNGER Media. He has leveraged his extensive experience in production, casting, and as a studio executive to create content with a purpose across genres. Jonathan's beautiful feature film, Mysterious Ways, moved me to tears and has a bangin' soundtrack. NPR journalist Sonari Glinton hosts his podcast series, Shattering the System, in collaboration with Macro and iHeart Podcasts. Bernadette Guy stars as the unruly baker in his delightful Taste-Made cooking series. Also, if you love the iconic Grey Gardens documentary, he's got an adaptation of The Marble Faun of Grey Gardens coming up. UNGER Media is collaborating with music legends and Peabody winners and LeVar Burton and Robin Roberts companies. And he's collaborating with the New York Times bestselling author Jason June to bring the adorable children's book Never Forget Eleanor on screen soon. Jonathan is an inspiring creator focused on elevating stories that connect us and change how we look at the world. I am so honored that he's my friend and my guest. Please enjoy Jonathan Unger. Jonathan Unger,
cheers.
Welcome
Thank
to
you
Creators
so much.
Cafe. Cheers.
Oh, this latte is delicious.
So yeah, what are you drinking?
I'm having a brown sugar hot oat milk latte.
Yeah, and it's from Be Bright, where I got my iced latte.
Nice.
And I don't know if you know, they won the best barista in the world. One of their baristas won. It's a huge contest, and one of their baristas won. One of their coffees is one of the top coffees in the world last year.
No,
they're this tiny little sweet shop on
exactly.
Melrose. Mm-hmm. They're so great.
I had no idea. Okay,
Yeah.
because it's a very, I don't know, it's like a joyful place.
Yes.
You could tell everyone knows each other in that place.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
Okay.
So,
well,
yeah.
now I'm gonna have to go back because this brown sugar latte is delicious.
It's dangerously good.
It actually reminds me of Trader Joe's. This is really good brown sugar creamer.
Oh.
And it's better than that. And I was just telling my mom to go get some. So now I know where to get my brown sugar all the time. Yeah. Thank you, love.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so how do you think of yourself as a creator, and what's kind of the path that got you to where you are?
Well, I must say I've never been asked that question before.
Yeah.
I would say I'm an impact producer.
Ooh.
So I think that's just come over time. You know, back in the day, I was a live event producer. I've been a casting producer, network exec, all of the above. And when launching this company, UNGER Media, now it's like CEO and founder of UNGER Media. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, trying to emphasize that we're just trying to make stories that are going to make a difference in the world. Hopefully.
I love that. I think you already are. And I have a cute little story of 8th grade Jessica was an actor, and I was trying to figure out how can I sing? How can I, act in front of people? How can I get myself out in the world? And so our local county fair in Indiana County, Pennsylvania had a group stage that they would book acts for. And so I created a show, a variety show in 8th grade where we me and my friends would sing and dance and do skits, and it was called Impact.
No way!
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, how fun is that? Okay.
So every time you say Impact, I just I think of the little puff paint shirts that I made, and I was I love that really deep, pure drive that we have when we're younger to make a difference with our art, and I think it's so easy to lose that. And I have this point in time where it's so clearly powerful for me to look back on of I just wanted to make an impact and help people and uplift people with my art. And it's so powerful to think back and I'm still trying to do that. And I love that we have that. We're simpatico in that. We're trying to do the same thing.
Truly, because it is a battle.
Yes.
It's not something that is easy when trying to do any sort of thing that's going to move the needle impact wise.
Yeah.
And there is a fearlessness that you have when you're a kid. So it's a matter of kind of tapping into that every time, where impact also tends to read earnest. And so then it's here's another way to frame it where it still feels like you're going to make a difference, but maybe do it in a way that is a little bit unexpected, or maybe does it in a way that doesn't scream earnest right off the jump. And you get people in an entertaining way and then make them think.
I'm so glad you came to that, because that is something that I battle internally with, of that I think I'm a pretty earnest person, honestly, but I'm also very aware of the world that I live in, and I don't always love just watching earnest things because it feels kind of glossy and shallow, but it also isn't always fun. And so finding that blend between something that has a purpose underneath it, but also is truly driven by owning its space in the entertainment world is such a hard line to walk. How do you think about that?
Well, it's funny. I was just talking to someone recently. It's one angle is finding those worlds that you can just celebrate, that feel untapped. So, for instance, we had one format that we had combined forces with two folks in the competition space. It was all framed around balloons, actually. So it was a big balloon competition show, and it was essentially celebrating this community of balloon artists and everything. Ultimately, that didn't get across the finish line, but when exploring, okay, how can we make content with a purpose? And now, over time, realizing that any brand that you set up is malleable. It can change over time, and that's okay. Being flexible in that regard. Now it's like bridging imagination with impact. And so if there are these pockets, or pockets of worlds or pockets of communities that are doing really cool things, that it feels like, wow, I would want to know about that, or I would want someone I know to know about this. How can we not necessarily laugh at them? Because I think some worlds, it's like, oh, they're really unique and they're a little bit quirky, but if you flip it on its head and make it more celebratory, then it also allows for a broader audience, and maybe either makes them want to do that skill set or take up that hobby, or especially even during COVID with that show, it was shining a light on moms that during COVID realized, okay, I'm not making a living anymore doing this, but I love creating balloon art. And so that was a shift. And so how can we also just tap into people's creativity in a different way?
Wow.
So that, I think, macro-wise is probably the best way of doing it. And then also just trying to find those folks that, kind of speaking to my casting background, I always kind of looked at folks as, would I want to hang out with them? Would I want to, even if I'm not hired by this company to cast them, would I or someone I know want to have a beer with them, want to chill, have coffee, whatever it may be? And that tended to be my North Star. And then it was just a matter of, who are those other genuine people that just through authentically being who they are and not necessarily rewarding bad behavior, we can just, I don't know, have people see themselves on camera. Because a lot of the unscripted world, it was a lot of just trying to make a rating. And so it's the louder, the noisier, the better. And I think that's where, in moving into UNGER Media, it was like, well, here are all these worlds that I've worked in, live events, unscripted, music, talent, yada, yada. But how can we now do it through this lens where it's not throwing everything against the wall to see what sticks, where then we're not being confident, first off, in content with a purpose, but also doing anything that totally throws that out the window. So I like to joke, I might watch Housewives, but I would never produce Housewives. So it's like just really ensuring that everything that we do speaks to what we're trying to do purpose-wise. So it's definitely taken more patience. And we have a no jerks allowed policy, which does allow for even more patience, just because in that discernment of who the right partners are and everything. But the patience has really worked out, and we've been able to really harness some really incredible partners along the way who think the same way, but also are a testament to how you can make a difference in storytelling in unique ways that can still either bring a profit or bring a rating or show folks that there is an audience for this. It's just a matter of putting more out there. So.
I find that very inspiring. So
good.
Thank you.
No, I mean, it's taken a lot of work. It's a lot of faith. It's actually a lot of the artist way that actually segued me into.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So did you have other inspirations, or what was it about the artist way that really brought this kind of path to you?
It's funny. My mom had always told me, you need to do the artist way. She is someone, and I'm blanking on who told her, and I feel bad that I'm blanking on who told her. But at the end of the day, it was this thing that just kept coming up. And I think it was my birthday that she actually gifted it to me, and I started it. And the moment I started it, I was like, how have I not done this before? Like, finally, I'm understanding why. It's kind of the secret club. Once you do the artist way, you understand the impact that can be made. And it just totally gets you out of your own head. I think it was the perfect timing to do it. If I'd been working at another conglomerate or working for other folks instead of launching UNGER Media, I don't know if as much of it would have been applicable, just because I do think there's an independence that comes from doing artist way. Like, if you're an artist or if you're a creative, these are the tools to make you realize that it's good. It's fun to be creative. Like, it's meant to be fun.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be political or stressful or, I don't know.
Filled with angst.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be all hard.
No, and you can have fun. You can be playful with it. You can be a little bit messy. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And I think if I was at a place that, let's say I had a boss that wanted everything perfect, that book probably did not apply. But it was the perfect time when I was kind of in that transition of, well, I could either continue interviewing for a corporate job, or on the side, I was telling folks, I'm pitching, we're developing ideas. If you have anything, let's at least take it out and see what can happen. And there was this really great pitch at actually Hello Sunshine that it was kind of that eureka moment of like, okay, don't be scared anymore. Take the leap and do it. And I think after that, that's when Artist Way came into the picture, and it just was that just further nudge, but also like constant nudge to just keep going on the path. Because when you're first starting something new, it's like everyone's either looking at you like you have 5 heads, like you're doing what? Yeah. And it's all a different type of angst around you.
Yeah.
Even internally. So when really unpacking Artist Way, 5 years now, granted there have been a few days where I have not done the morning pages, but I can feel it when I don't.
Okay.
I'm still doing them
That's
every
incredible.
single day.
Great.
And I it's the first thing I ever tell anyone, especially, it's funny, like people ask, do you have business advice? I think you actually need to work on your why, who you are, your spirituality, your faith, your core. Like, there's so much out of our control in this industry, and frankly in any industry, no matter if it's entertainment or not. But when you really hone in on who you are and do the work to do it, whether it's Artist Day or morning pages, as it says, it really does open your mind, change who you are. I get a thrill of even looking at old journal entries and realizing that's not affecting me anymore. So it's stuff like that that really just, I think with that, especially since it's based in spirituality, that really kickstarted me, like getting back into my faith and just using that as a segue into reading more devotionals and really just like letting it be a conversation with God when I'm writing. Like, what should I be focusing on? Or are there even projects I need to let go of?
Yeah.
Because it's all that stuff too that can kind of get a little bit mind-boggling to manage.
Yeah, just navigating. I like you talked about your true north of figuring out what your true north feels like and having some kind of regular practice so that you know on a regular basis and you know when you tap into it and you know when you step out of it. And
that practice worked for me.
Yeah.
It can work differently for other people. Like, journaling's not for everyone.
Yeah. Well, and if my experience is I did it probably 5 or 7 years ago and I found it really beneficial. And I just found I am not a morning pages person just because I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
And so I did it. And when I quit my job teaching at a college, teaching acting, I did one of the other books in the series, and I did the morning pages kind of in that big transition phase, and I got a lot of clarity. But I absolutely kept a lot of the mindset, and I do the journaling, but I do it when I need it, and I do the artist dates all the time.
Oh, see, that's what I need to do more of. I don't do enough of that.
That has helped me more than anything. So,
well, what's the other book in the series?
I need to look because I didn't mention it because I don't remember, because a friend borrowed it and said it was really helpful for them.
Okay.
I think it's like Riding the Dragon at Work. I'll put it in the show notes. I don't remember.
You had me there.
Yeah, it's super fun, and I think it's very applicable for us when we're kind of creating something from nothing, and trying to create a company that has an impact in the world in the artistic space. It's so relevant. So I will find the title and let you know. And I'll put it in the show notes too, because it was very helpful.
That I would love to find out. Thank you. Because the other book I wanted to mention was The Four Agreements.
Absolutely.
That was mind blowing. Just like really laying everything down in such clear, no nonsense, but also like, oh my gosh, it really does work that easily. Don't take things personally. Try to do the best you can. Don't assume anything, and mean what you say. And if you really live in that, then you also find like all the. I know we keep using the word angst, but it's more the fretting or the imposter syndrome, or like, oh, I said this, but I didn't really like feel that in that moment, but I felt like I needed to appease that person. It's like we all do that. Really, I mean. There are so many choices that you make in a day, and you could easily be doing those sort of things, those little things that are truly who you are, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Even an hour. If you're in a culture that you can't fully be yourself. And so it's really like the more you're finding who you are, then the less you're necessarily worried about either what the world thinks or what other people around you think. You can be a little bit more secure in your ideas, a little bit more confident in your ideas.
Yeah.
And then also even more confident when you're messaging those ideas to other people that you either want to come on board a project, or if you're pitching something, or if it's just, messaging what, either you want the mission to be or the sort of storytelling you do. So it also just has that ripple effect that you can't really put a price on.
I love that. Just the idea of if you're trying to walk into a space and be confident in what you're standing up for and representing, either yourself or your project or your company, just that base, that home base of knowing that you've put the work into being true to yourself on that daily basis is so important.
And there's a feeling that I think when you're doing it the other way, you don't realize that it affects you as much when you're leaving the meeting, or if you're done with the conversation and it's like, I should have said this. Why did I do that? Yeah. And you actually don't necessarily trigger that negative self-talk anymore, because you're not doing things in a people-pleasing sort of way. That's been a through line for me. So that is a definite thing that I really had to like excavate. And I think also when you're doing the work, you're realizing like just while you're transforming how things, I know I kind of said this, either don't affect you, or the things that felt like obstacles before, it's like, oh, please, I've tackled this before, so this is nothing.
Yeah.
It puts everything in perspective.
It definitely does.
Yeah.
So I will say that it's a little bit of a rocky kind of transition as you realize like how many of your behaviors and choices in the professional and personal world are kind of motivated by that underlying people pleasing or habits of behavior that you haven't questioned before. And that is mind blowing.
It is.
Like mid-career all of a sudden realize like, wait a second, what have I been doing this whole time?
And you can go into the doomsday of it all, like why have I been doing it? But then it's almost, as long as you can then move it and shift it like, well, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, exactly.
Then it's like you're almost empowered to be like, okay, this is my next chapter.
Yeah.
In that way.
Yeah.
Because it is transformative.
It's very powerful. I think it's one of those like kind of seeing the matrix kind of moments of, oh, I'm doing this. I need to recognize that I'm doing this. Why am I doing this? How can I change it?
And maybe it's getting older too.
Probably.
I mean, probably, I'm sure. Yeah. Like,
I feel like we've had a lot of, culturally, just a lot of shifts in a very short amount of time too that probably resonate with what we're talking about.
No, for sure. I mean, I remember when I became an assistant, I was interviewing at 30 years old. Or actually, I was still 30 towards the first year of being an assistant. Something about turning 30 really messed with my head and still being an assistant, let's say.
Yes.
And I think now over time, as funny enough, you get older, age just doesn't necessarily have that effect, or like the number of the age doesn't necessarily have that effect. I say this as I just turned 43 and I still went through that same thing of like,
congratulations.
what have I accomplished? Thank you. So I think it's only natural to do that, but it's been interesting. I think I'm starting to have a different relationship with age and just like the perception of age and how we live in a society that is either you have to do all these things by a certain age, whether it's, if you're in another part of the country and you have to have kids by a certain age because of where you live, like just because of the community you're in, and everyone getting married really quickly.
Yeah.
Or if it's even, career-wise, where you're at. Getting older is kind of badass.
Yeah.
Like, you really feel more yourself. You feel like you don't care as much anymore, and I don't care. Like, you just don't care what people think.
Well, I think it's you decide. For me, I decided what to care about.
Oh, I like that.
Because I've had so many people, even professionally, tell me to care less, and I just realized I cannot do that. I don't have the care less button, and so for me, I just have to be very purposeful about what I care about, and. Because I'm a terminal carer. Like, I'm gonna care.
Steal that. No.
And so it's really helped me to realize, like, oh, I can't not care about this. So I need to choose what I'm caring about, what I'm prioritizing. And that's been the big shift for me too.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna steal that from you. Because I think it's a less limiting way of putting it. And it's such a more positive way of putting it too. Because I'm the same, like, I don't want to care less, but it's more like, what am I putting my focus on?
Yeah. And I do want to care less about, what some random person thinks about my appearance. Sure. But it's because I want to care more about how I feel in that moment. And so, like, that mind shift really helped me a lot.
Are you someone that always just puts other people first?
I mean,
yourself?
I definitely have been.
Yeah.
I'm a literal liver donor. And so I in that process realized, like, oh shoot, maybe I have a little bit of a martyr complex, or a little bit of a, like, I like find some self-worth from, like, sacrifice.
Yeah.
And so that was a big part of kind of me figuring out that that's not necessarily a great position to put other people in either. It's just like, I need to help myself be okay and good first, so that I'm, like, pouring from a full fountain as opposed to an empty bucket.
And it's funny. Like, I think sometimes these statements feel a little bit hoity-toity, but they really are, like, and then they're exactly what they, like.
It's everything.
It really is everything, and it's not selfish. If anything, it's just making sure that you can be a better person for the other person.
Well, and part of the reason I had to stop teaching was I was so burnt out from prioritizing others' perceived needs over my own. And I was to the point that I was, like, physically ill because I was so tired and so stressed. And it was affecting me to the point that I was never my best self for anyone in any room. And so I had to kind of look at that and realize I had to change.
No, unfortunately, I think we all, no matter what industry or anything, no matter what stressful situation you're in, at some point that stress just, like, totally takes your body down. Yeah. And it's that shove. Like, you're not meant to be doing this way.
Yes.
You are also, you should be able to support a ton of people while at the same time not letting it lessen your love for yourself and that self-care. Yeah. And it really is a process. Like, it's probably one of the hardest processes, because then when you start making that change, it's like you have to also realize that some people might not necessarily like that change. Yeah. But it's not, like, I know you as a person, it's not like you'll never speak to that person again, but sometimes you might need a beat. Like, I don't have enough for your need right now. Yeah. But give me a minute. Yeah. And that's something I learned, especially when, I would say in the early phases, but it's probably going on a little bit longer than that. Just I want to be able to help anyone. Yeah. And I think part of casting, what was so fun about it was making those dreams come true. Like, oh, yeah. Wow, we got to change someone's life. And I know that if someone finds the right producer and gets on board something that they might have as an idea that they're having the courage to tell you about, that's the thing too. Like, sharing your idea with someone takes courage. And so a lot of it was probably saying yes to too many things and then realizing, okay, I don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
And then your body just shuts down over time. And then you kind of have to reassess all over again.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get to that point.
Yeah, I hope everyone feels empowered to kind of
To
find
not get
this.
to that point.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't get to that point. And like just knowing that, like, I think it's hard to trust yourself that like finding that sustainable path is a higher priority than pushing as hard as you can, because as artists and creatives, we're definitely pushed and encouraged and rewarded for making those big sacrifices, making things, just like hustling to make everything happen.
Hustle.
And you do, I'm not afraid of hard work, but I am now pretty suspicious of working for work's sake. And
2000%.
very passionate about finding a sustainable way forward for me and everybody I'm working with.
Yeah.
That's healthy.
Well, and that will ripple effect to other people. They'll
Yeah.
see how you're doing it and be like, wait, she seems happier. She seems more balanced. Like, people
Yeah.
will actually notice. And so that's where at first it might feel weird. Like telling the guilt or the FOMO
Oh yeah.
is real.
Yeah.
So like that's
Yeah.
definitely something that it's like you just have to also stand true to realize everyone will have this moment. Like it might also be, if you're saying I don't have the bandwidth, you're opening them up to the person that's actually meant to work with them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of shifting that, like it's not all on you. Like you're not meant to fix or save or help
can't
everyone.
fix
Like you
everything.
can't physically do that.
Yeah.
And so it's also just trusting like, okay, this wasn't either meant for me,
Yeah.
or this isn't the right time, or if someone is upset, hopefully there'll be calmer waters later.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's meant to be the project that you're meant to do, trust that it will come up later. Like
Yeah.
right now, it's just not it.
Yeah,
'Cause you
it's
have to
trusting
find-
those waves.
Yeah.
Are you ready to be confident and comfortable in front of a camera? Well, my name is Jessica Payne, and I would love to help you. I'm an actor, acting coach, and the host of the Creators Cafe video podcast. I have helped thousands of people to learn the skills of a Hollywood actor to be more comfortable in their body, voice, and mindset whenever you press record. So if you're an entrepreneur, a business person who needs to be in front of the camera, or you want to get into digital content creation, I would love to offer you one-on-one on-camera performance coaching so that you feel like when you press record, you can be your best self. Check out the link below for more details, and I can't wait to work with you. Let's have fun together. I'm so excited to talk about your new company. So what was kind of your inspiration for creating your company? And then let's jump into kind of your biggest projects that you're excited about right now.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
The company, I must say, I never thought it would be the end goal, or I never thought, even though people would say, I remember one time a former boss even said like, one day we're all going to work for you. And I've kind of walked around as a walking encyclopedia of pop culture information, TV information. I grew up reading Entertainment Weekly and TV Guide kind of like as my Bible, and I didn't know what necessarily entertainment looked like while working in it. And that ultimately, I think, a mix of tapping into all the things that I like, music, pop culture, trying to make a difference, helping people, making dreams come true, all those things. Trying to do that under the confines of another company, I think when you're a dreamer, it can feel a little bit stifling. Mm-hmm. No matter how supportive of a team you have around you, something in you still like calling out. And that ultimately was the catalyst of the company, where it was like coming back to who I am as a person in a, gosh, I thought I've been on the track of climbing as an exec, and that's been what I meant to do. Mm-hmm. And then you get to a point when you're thinking, oh, I'm on the right track, and suddenly something shifts and you're realizing, wait a second, either I'm meant to pivot or I'm meant to, do some sort of change. There was that incident of just like, I don't even know if I'm meant to be in this industry anymore. Mm-hmm. And that was when it was really kind of exploring, okay, if I were to take a step back and not work in entertainment, what would that look like? And I kept getting pulled back. Either someone would send me an idea, or I would read something and be like, oh, that would be such a great story, or I'd read a book and I would want to tell that story.
Yeah.
And it just all stemmed ultimately from really finally taking that leap of faith. And I think also we had moved to San Pedro, my husband and I, we had sold our home, and so it allowed for a little bit of a safety net. Because I wouldn't necessarily suggest anyone just start a company and take that leap of faith unless you've like at least done a little bit of planning or at least done a little bit of assessing, like, okay, especially if in your relationship, trying to figure it out together. But that over time has allowed for us to really, I think, use, I say we because it's me and my husband, and we get to really develop ideas together and work with talent and all these different facets of things. That I think also was just the catalyst, or I know I keep saying that, but essentially just the trigger of, wow, if we can really make a difference in the world and actually come from a place of like, I get excited about, of course, having a show get on the air, but really it's about what is that ripple effect after the credits roll.
Yeah.
That's what our driving force was.
Yeah.
And that's what got me excited to, I think, explore all different areas of entertainment and not feel siloed just because my background had been in unscripted to stay in unscripted that entire time. And I want the company to also just be an example of breaking this myth that if you're in this industry in one particular lane, one particular sector of the industry, you're not necessarily, like, I think there's a myth that you're not allowed, or you can't, or you don't have the talent or skill set to explore another genre, explore scripted, or, you know, whatever that other side of the industry is. And we've been able to really kind of break that mold and allow for it to be like, here's a seed of an idea. I don't know if this is what this might look like after you jump on board, but if this is something that you're passionate about and you want to do this together, then let's try to make it work. And that's how a lot of our projects have come about.
Yeah.
Where it's just kind of meeting people in the middle, and if it's a talent that we've worked with in the past, and it's like, well, people know you as this, but why don't we flip what they know you as and show you in this way? If it's let's say, music artist and we're doing something animated, it's trying to do things in an unexpected way too. And I think that's where my network cap comes on, where it's like, there are certain ideas that tend to go around the industry a lot, and sometimes it's an idea that, oh, I've heard that before, but now it's a different era, and now it feels like maybe there's a time for that idea. I definitely hope to emulate what a lot of who inspire me have done. J.J. Abrams, Issa Rae, Charles King of Macro, they are a testament to, if you stay in one lane, you're not going to be able to make the impact that you can make if you're in all different lanes. And folks like them, I mean, Issa Rae, the way that she, of course, made noise with Insecure, but also did it in a way that extended it to the community within Inglewood and within the essence of the show, and actually allowed for it to just have this grassroots effect. That's the sort of stuff that I just get very excited about, that I'm like, okay, this is a great idea, but think about what we can do. Like, people will finally feel seen. Or growing up, you know, as a gay kid in Virginia, Wilson Cruz on My So-Called Life was my only example. So, like, sometimes using that as a way to tap into, as a white gay man, I know I can only tell so many stories from my authentic place, but if we partner with folks that are from other communities that can tell those stories in an authentic way, then, like, you get to change someone's life just by them watching it. Yeah. Because they finally see themselves.
Two of your projects that I'm familiar with already are doing that in such a beautiful way. So first off, I want to talk about Mysterious Ways, your film. It's so beautiful, so good. I love the soundtrack. It's beautiful and surprising. So can you tell people what that one's about?
Thank you for everything you just said. I had the fortune of reading the script back in 2021. And I was working with one of the producers on the film on an unscripted idea. So this is also just an example of, you never know. Yeah. Like, you never know unless you either say yes or, you know, do a little trial and error. The unscripted show didn't necessarily get off the ground. And when trying to figure out, okay, what's next, he was like, listen, we have a script. He knew that my husband and I had met in choir. He knew that we had a faith background. So he knew the subject matter was going to resonate. And it's this beautiful love story that really just bled off the script of a queer Indigenous couple in New Zealand The producer is also from New Zealand, and the unscripted show was going to be in New Zealand. So it wasn't in the US. It was totally different territory. It was during COVID. So it was a lot of learning along the way. And I've never been a producer on a film before. So that alone of just like, okay, do I even have this in me? Instead of saying, no, that's not my thing, or feeding into that myth of like, I can't do that because I'm in unscripted. It was working through that, and they were gracious enough to have me jump on board. And so from then on, I was involved. I would see like screen tests. I would see casting tapes. They filmed it all in New Zealand, so I was remote in the U.S., but they would send me updates, and we would get cuts, and I would give notes, and it put on a lot of different caps that I've never done before, even sales and acquisitions, and trying to find funding for a little pocket of money that we needed for post. Just all things I'd never done before. But, you know, even though it was daunting, it allowed for me to learn along the way, and now I can actually apply some of that stuff for other things. It's a very indie film, shot on a shoestring budget, and a lot of obstacles were along the way. Even before I even jumped on, where the New Zealand Film Commission originally was a much bigger budget film. And things happen, and ultimately it definitely went more shoestring, but we never gave up on it. No one in New Zealand ever gave up on it. Our director never gave up on it. From everyone who was there on set, from what they said, it was like they had every single obstacle up until that point. But even somehow, while dealing with cast having COVID and things like that, it all came together. And so that I think too is also just like a no jokes allowed policy really works when you can actually speak respectfully, try to figure things out together. I think when you have limits, it actually allows for you to think more creative instead. And I think it built us as a team in a really beautiful way, where even though we only interacted over Zoom until we had the LA screenings, like we had never met in person.
Oh, wow.
Until that time. And so the LA screenings, which thank you again for coming, it was really surreal. Like if you had told the kid in Virginia growing up that someday he'd be watching the film on screen, that's what I kept trying to do that entire time. And I hope I never lose that. Because then it's like, why are you in this town?
Well, and I gratefully I got a pre-screener of it that I watched at home, and it was beautiful. But then getting to see it on the big screen, on a full movie theater screen, I never once thought indie shoestring. I just I thought it was right sized. I thought it was exactly the right size for the story. And it's cool to hear you say that now, and in the talkback when you did as well, just because it doesn't read like that. It reads like it is the appropriate size for that story. And because it's shot beautifully and the story is so well woven, that I think that just doesn't even, I mean, I think from those kind of terms, and it didn't really cross my mind.
That means a lot.
And just knowing, also everyone had to do such crazy things during the lockdown that everything was affected. So I think we have what I think we've gained out of that as an industry is we have a slightly more open view of what things can look like storytelling wise. And we're really attracted to great acting and great story, as opposed to getting stuck behind shiny production value. So I like that we're heading that way as an industry too. And I'm realizing too, I didn't really even mention what the film's about. I didn't really tell the storyline. So I think that the other reason why I was like, we have to not give up on this, was because the message is ultimately showing everyone that love is love. And that's probably been the most interesting journey about the movie, because, you know, it's a queer Indigenous film about faith, and it's about a gay vicar who wants to marry his man, who also is coming out of the prison system and kind of adjusting at the same time. And so there are a lot of intricate layers and nuanced layers to it. And the way it all came about really was like magic lightning in a bottle. And I think with the subject matter, it's like we want folks to see the film to realize they're loved just as much
when you bring up the talk back, I know I tend to talk about I used to pray the gay way, and it never really worked, oddly enough. And
Oh, wow.
it's like realizing again that there are so many folks out there who are probably doing the same thing across different regions,
Yeah.
different age groups, and things like that. And so it always felt bigger than us.
Yeah.
Like, even if just one person saw it, and maybe we might save their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just with suicide rates and everything, and just how we've kind of gone backwards as a global entity, or at least how the news portrays it. And so it's like we knew that would have some type of impact, no matter what the obstacles might have been to get it there, and also no matter what the obstacles are, even in the earnest journey of it all. Of like, we know we have something that can make a difference. So it's a matter of trying to, like, I don't want to necessarily convince people. I still try to think like, okay, the right person will see the value in this and either want to help, with the distribution, or expand the spotlight on it, stuff like that.
Well, and I think also with this one, you are doing a good job of, it is earnest, like we were talking about, just because of what the story is, but it's not pedantic and it's not preachy in any way, which it definitely, I mean, it's about a pastor, so like it could definitely get preachy. But I appreciated that it was really just a really sweet, engrossing storytelling. So,
and I must say too, I can't take any credit for the soundtrack. That soundtrack I'm still obsessed with.
So good.
It's
so good.
There are a lot of favors, and I think that's just a testament to Paul as a director, and Nairi as a producer, and Steven too, and Brian. Like, they just were able to get all these great people at reduced rates who believed in it, and even had their own conversations with their own family members. Like, you might not be okay that I'm doing this film. Like, we're still in that time that they had to even bring it up.
Yeah.
And the fact that they, if families weren't agreeable with it, they still did it. So,
That's so hard, especially when it's coming from a place of being something to do with people you love, and you have to just own what your path is and own what you're doing and still send them love, but still stay in your truth. Oh, wow. Related, you also are producing Shattering the System, which is, elevating a voice that is different than your own and exposing some systematic truths. And I think it's a cool true crime podcast that's done at this very high professional level with real investigative reporting, which is very cool. And it's also set in West Hollywood. And so it's about my neighborhood and these, my neighbors. And it's so wild to hear the stories that are happening in the shadows blocks away.
Oh, we're not far away at all. Walkable.
Yeah.
I have to say, yet again, thank you for being this supportive, because I must say, and this as a creator, when you create things, it's a real sign, like, who's going the extra mile to support you and listening to things and watching things. So it's, I have to say that, because it does not get lost on me. And I think that sort of, it feeds into the we're all in this together, Like, I want to be just as supportive of your stuff as you are as mine.
Yeah.
And that's how we can all realize that it's okay to still dream big and everything.
Yeah.
But Shattering the System, that was 4 years in the making.
Wow.
That was one of those projects, too, that in that phase of, am I going to keep climbing the ladder in interview or pitch? This amazing friend / producer, Roy Recchio, he had been tracking the story. And it was about Ed Buck, a local councilman, who... he was found guilty. He was killing men in his apartment, particularly black gay men, some of them homeless. Basically, it goes into very dark subject matter. But long story short, what I think got us emboldened to make sure that we did not give up trying to tell the story, even as two white producers, because the victims of Ed Buck had been portrayed in a way that is not fair. A lot of them were sex workers, and so some of them were portrayed just solely as that, not as complex, full-dimensional human beings. And so we knew pretty quickly that in order to not only tell the story, but tell it in the right way, we had to get people to trust us. And so it was, constantly reaching out to people who were either part of the story or affected in some way. I think once also we were connected with Sonari Glinton, the gift that changed everything with this, from NPR. He had been beating the drum about the story for a long time over Twitter, and no one had noticed. And after he got involved, and after we realized, okay, now we just need someone to kind of put the pieces together from a content perspective, we actually were originally thinking that as a documentary.
Oh, okay.
And
sure.
so when Sonari came on board, it was like, well, if we pivot this into a podcast, instead of frankly fighting the responses that we were getting as a documentary, that this felt too niche. So it was like, okay, well, we're not going to give up. These victims need justice. There are also probably so many other victims, as we were coming to find out, that either didn't have the courage to speak up, or they thought there would be some sort of blowback. Ed had power in this area. And also there was corruption. There were a lot of people hiding what he was doing. And so with all of that, we felt like if we were at least were shining a light on it, it might embolden other people to come out of the shadows and say it. And I went to the trial for 10 days, and we made a lot of, I would say, impactful connections there, not only with the prosecutors, but some of the other folks who were in the courtroom and things. And Macro, gratefully enough, were incredible partners. And we actually, as a company, our first podcast was their first podcast.
Oh, wow.
And as looking up to someone like Charles King, that felt really big. And it felt big to Sonari to have kind of a team like them back it. And, we really were proud of season 1. Yeah. We loved having iHeart as a partner. I think the impact was definitely made. I think it opened people's eyes to just be mindful of what's around you. Because the thing is that even though it's a West Hollywood story, people like Ed Buck are everywhere. And so it's really, what are those tools that, as Sonari beautifully put it, that you can shatter the system and apply them in your community, in your own neck of the woods, so that either your friends or you yourself are not impacted, or maybe you might even have a story that's similar to this, and now this can give you an idea as to what to do. And we had a lot of incredible backing from organizations like Black and Missing Foundation, and I don't think it will ever truly resonate with me just how the fact that nothing had been done for so long with Ed, and just being in the midst of that for 4 years, like, it's just an experience that will change your life. You will look at people differently. You will look at anyone you walk on the street differently. It makes you realize everyone has something that they're battling, and we just have to treat each other with compassion, because there's a lot of evil out there that doesn't necessarily do that. And if anything, now I look at anyone I meet as someone that either is just trying to get by, or it's just a human being like you and I. It changes your compassion. It changes your whole mentality on human connection and everything. So 10 episodes later, we haven't gotten a pickup, but I don't know if we're not coming back for season 2, but at the end of the day, we're really, really proud of what we accomplished in season 1.
Well, and it is such a distinct storyline that it feels right-sized again, honestly, as a project. And I think it's a beautiful way of how you're using your natural gifts and passions for connection to put all those pieces together and get the stories of people that wouldn't have their story told put into the spotlight. So I see that as a through line for your career for sure.
I need you to be like my hype man or something. No, because you know this, when you're in it, you don't even get a sense as to how you're doing.
It's so hard to see it from the inside.
Yeah.
And so we need our people to be able to step back and reflect for us all the things that we're doing. On the lighter side, you're also doing Unruly Baker and a children's book you're taking into a film. So talk about those.
Yeah, no, content with a purpose means a lot of different things.
And I think that's what's so great. It's because you embrace, we contain multitudes, and we can talk about the dark, scary stuff, and we can talk about the political things things, and we can talk about the heartache of what people are going through and the passion, and we can talk about elephants.
Yeah, and we can have fun. And
We
like
can have a great
the Unruly Baker, that was, so Bets, she actually was the original talent that I was talking to Brian, this producer, before jumping on board Mysterious Ways.
Oh.
So she, just a spitfire. I mean, my husband actually found her. They had connected over Instagram. We were building out a really big format that kind of touched upon her cake art meets baking. And she battles MS on a daily basis, and you would never know looking at her. No. And there was just something, just kind of going back to what I said about casting. Who do I want to hang out with? Like, if I would want to hang out with her no matter what.
Yeah.
If we got a show with her, great. But I would want to hang out with her.
Yeah.
I want to do more with her.
Yeah.
And so she had been sitting on some of these classes that she had filmed on her own, and we had a relationship with Tastemade, and I floated Tastemade some of these videos, and I was like, this woman throws all the baking rules out the window. If you're watching and have never done baking, she will show you it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
you can learn together. There's something fun about her cursing all the time.
Yeah, it's so joyful.
Yeah, it's joyful.
That's why I love that.
Who doesn't love a good beep?
Yes.
And I think you can have fun with that. And so it's definitely more of a comedic baking show that brings a lot of joy.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping to do additional episodes for that. So knock on wood, that's still being figured out.
Yeah.
And then Never Forget Eleanor is a beautiful kids book that this amazing New York Times bestselling author, Jason June, we were collaborating on a YA book that he wrote called Jay's Gay Agenda. And Never Forget Eleanor was coming out, and he was gracious enough to send me a copy. And my family has a long history of Alzheimer's. I love multi-generational stories. I think there needs to be more love for grandmas across the world.
Yeah.
And just those ways of like bringing families together. I always loved how when I watched television or any sort of thing, I wanted to immediately tell everyone. And like, I want this to be a communal experience. If we're either watching this together as a group, or if we're lining up, rows of movie, taking up rows at a movie theater, whatever it may be, that full-on experience. And after I read it, I was literally telling everyone I knew, especially those who had been touched by the disease, and it's about Alzheimer's, but told through the eyes of a kid elephant, and it is Grandma Elephant Eleanor. And I can't right now say who is now attached. However, it definitely, it's been really awesome to see not only who's been able to jump on board, who wants to tell this sort of story, and we're aiming to have it be an animated short film that we have big Oscar dreams for, and ultimately really want it to be a timeless special in some sort of way, kind of harkening back to the Snoopy days, and really allowing for it to be something that if I'm a child, let's say you have a kid who might not be understanding what Alzheimer's is, but it's a very real thing, and they don't know why grandma's forgetting things or why grandpa is, this can be something that they watch. It can be also something that maybe you know a family that has that going on. And so it's really just with that in mind. And it's just a beautiful story about community, people coming together for the greater good, and really just showing a different lens of the disease that from some of the conversations that we've had with folks, what's been exciting to people is that, wow, I have not heard about it done this way before. So we're actually in the mix of basically, we'll be announcing soon who's involved.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great. So I ask all of my guests, what is a creator's challenge that you could give to my audience?
I love this question. I would say take 10 minutes, and it's up to you if you want to do it at morning and night. It's helped me at night, more so. But do a gratitude list. It's such a great way to get out of your head. And let it be the littlest to biggest things. Like, it can be the breath I just took. It can be that I have loving parents, or just really taking in the good stuff.
Yeah.
That would be that sort of challenge. And then also hopefully applying it more than once. If you feel like, wow, I feel really good after doing this, see if you want to do it the next day. See if you then want to do it the next day. But that sort of practice, it does change your whole mindset on things.
Yeah, that's cool because I found that was very similar to me to the morning pages. I wasn't a good fit for doing it every day because then I think it felt like homework for me, but I was a good fit for doing it regularly or if I felt down. And I think what it gave me was clarity on what I want more of in my life because it's so easy to think about what I don't want. Like, this is annoying. I don't like this. But that helped me to realize, I mean, even for the podcast, it helped me to realize, like, I love great coffee and I love having heart-to-heart conversations with people I respect and admire. And I want to have more of that in my life. And I realized I'd let kind of the music side of things go. And so I went to see a friend's concert and I was grateful for that. And it helped me to bring music back more into my life. And I think it's such a good idea.
And we're very similar.
I know.
I don't think we really fully realize that in choir.
To what level?
No, at all. All.
So I'm grateful you're on my list now. I'm grateful that you got to come here today.
Thank you so much.
I look forward to, let's do something together in the future. I think that would be a really good fit. So.
And more of these chats.
Yes, please. So thank you for coming. Where can people find you?
They can find me Instagram, UNGER Media. My personal one is also Jonathan A. Unger. And then also you can find me on Facebook at Jonathan Unger and LinkedIn. Jonathan Unger, but our website is also www.ungermedia.com.
Perfect. And I will have that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, my friend.
I adore you.
Cheers.
Thanks, love. Cheers.
I adore you too.
And this coffee. Gosh.
Join the community and share your creative challenges on Instagram and Facebook at Creators Cafe by Kika Labs. And also check out my website, kikalabs.com, KIKALABS.com, to sign up for the mailing list so you always know when a new podcast is released, and to check out my coaching and digital courses to help you be a more confident and joyful creator.